You're listening to NFRN The Drive, your place for NFRN, NASCAR, and motorsport news. Hello again, everybody. I'm Colin Denton with RVN, and welcome to another edition of NFRN The Drive. We've got some exciting racing coming up at Simtel Park as the Elite Cup Series enters its round of 12, and the Amateur Cup Series playoffs faces elimination. However, we have some breaking news from the Elite Cup Series stable coming to us moments ago. Season 1 champion Rampage and his Ramco teammate NASCAR Fan 19 have announced that they are going to retire at the end of Season 2. Both drivers announced their retirements in a joint press release sent by the team, however, they were both for different reasons. The reigning champion admitted that he had concussion symptoms in the aftermath of an accident at Castle Gorge in which he was struck multiple times and went airborne. You're seeing the replay of that accident now as the 4-car of Rambo hit the wall at the entry of pit lane, came back up the racetrack. The 1-car ricocheted off the 48, was struck by the 12, and then again by the 42 as he was upside down. He did go to the infield care center as a requirement of the accident. However, medical personnel did clear him from the care center as he was not showing any symptoms of a concussion. Rampage has had a series of accidents in the aftermath of his victory at Van Zandt. At Bump Drafton, he got into a hard crash in which he slapped the wall driver's side after getting involved in the big accident going into Turn 3. However, it was the accidents that came after the one at Castle Gorge. He took multiple high-speed shots and incidents at Peoria that involved multiple cars. And then at Nazareth, he got into an incident with Dominic Carranza entering the first corner and went almost head-on into that Turn 1 wall, which sent the 24 over. While he wasn't involved in an official accident in the playoffs, he did run into the back of Mitchell Mark at Texas World. This continued a downfall that eventually led to his elimination from the playoffs after last race at NASCAR. Rampage admitted that he did not want to disclose his symptoms, knowing that it might impact his playoff eligibility. As for the driver of the 64, NASCAR Fan 19 announced that he would be leaving on his own terms. He would be taking up a managerial role for the team. NASCAR Fan 19 remains an active part of the round of 12. Ramco announced in its release that it plans to rebrand to Arch Motorsports for next season and expects to field a full-time Elite Cup Series team using a new driver who has already been chosen but is yet to be named. Here's a look at the career stats for both of the Ramco drivers, and obviously they are very accomplished in such a short amount of time in this league. 3 victories for Rampage, 2 for NASCAR Fan 19. As far as they stand on the Power Index, which takes into account the performances of all of the drivers that compete in the series, they currently rank number 1 and 2, and obviously if some veteran drivers come back next season, they probably won't hold those spots forever, but it's nice to see that they are going out on top as some of the most accomplished drivers in this series. Some statements from the outgoing drivers from reigning champion Rampage. It's been a great career with some ups, downs, and a few flips along the way. It's time to step away and let another exciting new team fill the void that will be left behind. From NASCAR Fan 19, I've really enjoyed my time in the NFRN Elite Cup Series, and while I'm stepping out of the driver's seat and moving on to the next stage in my career, I know this team and series is in good hands. It means a lot to walk out on my own terms with a great friend and teammate. We still have unfinished business as a group, and hopefully this will clear the air as we attack these final 7 races. The NFRN also posted its own statement in response to the drivers' announcements of retirement. Rampage and NASCAR Fan 19 have been essential to the growth of the league as part of the inaugural class of NFRN Elite Cup Series drivers. With both drivers' accomplishments on the track, leading several statistical categories, and Rampage being crowned the first champion in series history, they have set the foundation for future drivers in the years to come. We appreciate their contributions to the NFRN and wish them both the best in their future endeavors. Some very surprising news there from the NFRN's top series. We'll have some more developments as we progress throughout the race day. Now, looking back at our last event at NASCAR up in Washington, where several big moments led to surprising eliminations for veterans, including last season's champion. Let's take a look at some of the highlights to see how we got to where we are today. We start off with the Elite Cup Series, where Shane Borland led the way to the green. However, right off turn 2, an issue here. Contact with Reese Butcher, Zachary Fitzwater Sr., and Allison Rain goes for a tumble right over the hillside. Fortunately, wasn't as violent as the Amateur Cup Series event, which we will get to in a moment, but still a nasty lick either way, and that would take Rain out of contention. You can see the replay here as she shoots up the hill, barely nicks another berm, and then goes for a long slide on her roof before eventually landing on all 4 tires. However, that would take her out of contention for these playoffs, not even completing a lap on the race. Stuart Gradden on the ensuing restart would have a terrible run He'd get stuck on the outside and fade all the way back to the rear of the field. And that would really set up a tough go on his playoff run. All those drivers that are trying to make sure that they stay out of that danger zone are all trapped in the back of the field. Having some issues getting up front. Brad Stover would be the first one to come to pit lane. David Davidson would follow suit, but Stover's decision to pit early would put him out in front. Ryan Maiden started this round out of the playoffs, but he was able to jump his way in midway through the race. Philip Fry trying to fight his way back in. Stover would once again opt for an early pit stop, and he has a great advantage over Davidson as he pulls away. And then some troubles on the pit stops as some of those contenders getting stuck on pit lane, stalling their race cars. Several drivers in important spots, like Rampage, like Reese Butcher, like Ryan Maiden. And then out of nowhere, here comes Jet Kraus shooting his way to the front of the field. Brad Stover getting caught up in some lap traffic. Kraus will come down on the same lap as Stover, and Davidson will follow suit. And once again, Maiden having some problems on pit lane as Philip Fry pulls away. That's the driver to watch out for. Reese Butcher also having issues. Coming down to the late stages of the race, Kraus getting trapped on the outside line, hurting his momentum as he's caught in the lap traffic, but then Stover makes a mistake with just under 2 laps to go, and that would set up Kraus to take the victory. And that would be the end of Season 1 champion Rampage's run in these playoffs, eliminated in the round of 16. The final finishing order, Kraus up on top, Stover gets second, and Stephen Willie finally finds his way into a top 5 run after all of the struggles that he's had this season. 4 chase drivers up here inside the top 10. Davidson in 4th, Baskinger 6th, DeBarros in 8th, and Porkins 9th. That would set up this final chase grid with Stuart Gratton and Philip Fry getting 6 points over Rampage and Reese Butcher. Next, we'll look at some Amateur Cup Series highlights, which actually preceded Elite. But this is where the big accident of the night was. AJ Jones not only struck the hillside, but he struck the berm, and he goes for a terrifying tumble. It's pretty much impossible to actually count how many times he rotated because of the manner of the way that his car went around. You can see there, it was just a 3-wide situation, sandwiched in between 2 playoff drivers. And there's where he takes his hit at full speed. It's just absolutely terrifying to look at. As eventually he will come down on all 4 tires, and he is okay, and he will race in today's event. And then once again off of turn 2, some issues there with Tyler Reed, and Jay Jefferson is going to send the playoff driver Kenny Knox around for a spin. No harm, no foul, except the 76 will go to the back of the field. And then some contact here between Kyle Law and Kyle Bichelli is going to send Austin Rogers around, and a big hit to the outside wall. Pole sitter Alexander Rowe also involved. Amid these early pit stops, there was some pit strategy playing into effect. Ryan Kendall decided to stay out on this particular restart, and it really affected him, as within a couple of laps he would drift further and further back in the field, as would John Gilbert, who went on the same strategy. Big decision for him as he's in the playoffs. Steve Ray would come down to pit lane, and as Robert Harrison thought he would lead a lap, Shane Borland went and stole it away, and Harrison would drop back from there. Then we'd see some green flag pit stops. Here comes Callaway out of pit lane. He would be the top running playoff driver, but Mike Simpson is able to find his way to the front. Troubles for Donnie Moore, who was above the cut line by a safe margin, suddenly found his way below it after the pit stop. Dwayne Callaway tried to make a move for the lead, however, he would end up getting caught on the outside, and TJ Ball would go around him and a couple of others as Simpson moves on to the checkered flag and takes his first career victory in the Amateur Cup Series, a part-timer winning up here in this series. TJ Ball would get second, Noah Kim and Steve Ray both able to get by Dwayne Callaway, who would finish 5th. Kenny Knox and Robert Harrison also grabbed top 10s in this event. Donnie Moore really suffered as a result of that poor finish, and he would only end up 2 points ahead of Austin Rogers at the cut line heading into today's elimination race at Simtel Park. And while those 2 series were up in Washington, the Truck Series was down in California at the super high-banked Derek's Moto-Drome. Issues here in turns 3 and 4 for Taylor the Pig. Slides up into the wall and goes for several flips that would take him out of the event. It would be relatively uneventful up until Jasper Riles decides that he's going to come down for a green flag pit stop, but botches the entry to pit lane, gets stuck on the banking in turns 3 and 4. He'll have to be towed out of there, and that will take him out of contention as he goes a lap down. Major hit for his title host, but meanwhile, for the lead, Kispin getting stuck on the outside of Riles. That will allow some other drivers to take advantage.
Dylan Lexton and Benny Seitz are competing for the lead, and the 83 truck is able to come out on top. A little further back, several drivers trying to just stay out of each other's way. Dalton Wise gets loose underneath Moses Osborne, keeps it off though, and it will be Benny Seitzer that's first to the line. As it would turn out, Jasper Rouse gets his lap back. However, it wouldn't matter as he's not able to claim the victory. Josh McCoy comes home runner-up, Dylan Lexton third, Emerson Sims fourth, Hunter Cox fifth, and Tyler Reed in sixth claims the only spot in the top dozen among the playoff drivers. In the points standings, Jasper Rawls could have won that race, could have been an automatic bid into the next round. However, he's still 27 points above the cut line, so still okay, but needs a good finish on Ontario. Clint McComb and Steve Ray at the cut line, 3 points apart.
So now we turn our attention to Simtel Park, the 20th round of the Elite Cup Series, a 1.25-mile oval that will test these drivers with its high speeds and high bankings. Just a few reminders before we get into the races.
For anyone interested in being a driver in the NFRN that isn't already signed up in a full-time or part-time capacity, you can sign up for part-time qualifying starting at race 13. That deadline is 2 days away. Be sure to take note of it. If you're interested at all, go ahead and just sign up. If you haven't already made an appearance, you can check that list. That will show drivers that are eligible to compete coming up and where they will start.
Make sure to check out the official NFRN store for all of your merchandise needs. Hopefully, we'll have some new selections coming up in the near future. Also, make sure to check out the NFRN Discord, where you can get all of your series news and race updates as they get posted. You can find both of those links down in the description. Now it is time to head to the track. The Amateur Cup Series will see who survives in the playoffs, and the Elite Cup Series will see who is able to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. This has been NFRN The Drive for NFRN and RVN. My name is Colin Denton. We will see you all at the races.